Hi everybody, I'm Rook and welcome to the table. I can say this again with confidence as we have our premier remote duel for the channel. The very first remote duel that we are doing. This is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel match. We are here with Cursive Yu-Gi-Oh! On the other side. He is playing the Moth deck, and I am playing the Gravekeeper Burn with Twisted Personality deck. Very first remote duel of the channel. Excited to get started. Cursive will have a duel out as well on his side, so be sure to check that out. But I'm going to open up here. I'm going first. Cursive won the dice roll. Starting with Gravekeeper's Curse, which is going to burn him for 500. I have Wonder Wand. I can put both to the graveyard to draw 2. So you can see in the corner there I have my Twisted Personality counters. I'm going to set 2 and I will pass my turn to Cursive. Now Cursive is using the Dark Moth deck with cards like Gap the Divine Soldier, Dark Ruler Hadess, and the like. You're seeing a heavy back row from Cursive just to start, and he's going to pass to me. So end phase, do I have anything for him? No, I'm going to draw. Leaving my Twisted Personality counter at 1, Cursive running the Cocoon of Ultimate Evolution skill. Cocoon of Ultra? Yeah. I'm going to Rite of Spirit my Gravekeeper's Curse back onto the field. That's another 500 burn from him. That puts me up to 2 counters for Twisted Personality. I ask how many cards he has in hand. He says 2. I decide it's worth it to remove both counters to toss a card from his hand. So he has 2 cards. Yes, and I sniped the Parasite Paranoid. Obviously unable to play it right now because he has a full back row. But I drew pretty curse heavy this opening hand as I summon another one. That's my normal summon because I use Rite of Spirit to special summon that other one. That's another 500 to Cursive, and that's another counter for me. Back up to 1 counter on Twisted Personality. Set a back row on the swing for 800 into a heavy back row. Is that going to go through? And that actually is. He's taken 800 from that, and he's taken 800 from both Gravekeeper's Curses. And that brings me all the way back up to 3 counters on my Twisted Personality. So in my main phase, I had 2 counters, and I was able to use them to discard a card from hand. And then I was able to get him back up to 3 with the Summoning of Curse and 2 attacks. Now on my end phase, Cursive is going to Dust Tornado both my back rows, which was a Nightmare Wheel, and I believe it was another Rite of Spirit, and Cursive is going to draw here. So 1 back row left, and we know he has 2 cards in hand, but not looking too good for him as I have a serious board advantage. Of course, it's Gravekeeper's Curse. That's 800 attack, so really he just has to summon any normal monster, or any 4-star really will beat over that. But he's going to Lure of Darkness, allowing him to draw 2 cards, and he has to banish 1 card. He's banishing. And he is going to shuffle back in. Okay, a little bit of a misplay there. That should have been a banish. But he did have Parasite Paranoid in there as well, so he did have a target to shuffle in. But he's using Cocoon's additional skill, which allows him to shuffle an insect back in the deck and then draw a card. He's going to set another card here, and he's going to pass that turn to me. Look at that, there's the 3rd curse. All 3 curses and 2 Rite of Spirits in my opening hand. What are the odds? So he's going to take 500 from that, leaving him 400. He's 1 additional curse summon or Nightmare Wheel away from losing this game here. I'm going to go ahead and start swinging with my curses. And are these going to go through? Yeah, that's it. Cursive had no response to those curses, which is crazy. They're all at 800. I think that what happened there is I ditched my 2 counters pretty early to discard a card from his hand, and I sniped the Parasite. That was huge. Obviously, you saw he had a Moth in his hand, so that would have been a really good setup. But good first game. Gravekeeper's Burn taking that for sure. Just straight cursing. Straight curses. And now we're going into game 2. Cursive is going to go second, and I'm going to go first here. So Twisted Personality, my counters are now gone. Back to 4,000 each. I'm going to set 2 cards in the back row, and I will pass my turn to Cursive. Alright, Cursive sided in the Golden Ladybug. Really good counter against a deck like Gravekeeper's and the Burn deck, because a lot of times you're burning for 500 at a time, but the Ladybug will give you 500 on your standby phase. Pretty good counter there, so he got that in his opening hand, which is great. He's going to set up back row and normal summon Edoria. Edoria is a 1200 attack fiend monster, where when it dies you can target a monster to take it to the grave with you. He's going to swing for 1200, and do I have an answer to that? No, I'm going to take that 1200, get a counter on my Twisted Personality, and then end phase I'm going to double Zoma him. 2 Zomas in defense, and now it is my draw going into my main phase. So I have the 1 counter on Twisted Personality, and I have 2 Zomas that I can now spin into attack mode. They're both 1800 attack, 500 defense. and I'll be able to beat over this Edoria pretty freely, but if I do, he'll be able to take one of those with him. I'm going to normal summon the Gravekeeper's Recruiter. It's a 1200 attack monster. I'm going to equip it with Wonder Wand, and I'm going to put both of the graveyard to draw 2. I also get Gravekeeper Recruiter's effect, where if that card I control is sent to the graveyard, I can search for a Gravekeeper's monster with, I believe it's 1500 or less defense, and put it into my hand. I'm just going to get another Gravekeeper's Recruiter. That's 1500 defense right there. Recruiter's great because it searches for every Gravekeeper I have in my deck. That includes Curse, and I also run Gravekeeper's Oracle. Setting 1 back row, I'm going to start swinging. Zoma into Nidoria. This would be a difference of 600, and that is going to happen. Cursive electing to destroy the Zoma that did not attack to save himself from an 1800 attack swing to the face. And with that, I'm going to end my turn. On the end phase, Cursive is going to Dust Tornado my Wonder Wand Bluff, so I didn't have a back row set. Usually when I do the Wonder Wand tribute, I get a couple good cards in the back row, but I didn't have one there, so it was a Wonder Wand Bluff. So standby phase, Cursive gains 500 back, so that Nidoria damage really didn't matter. He's back to 44, and he's got Parasite Paranoid here, so I have a monster face up on the field that's super deadly against Moth. So he Parasites my Zoma. He's going to activate the Cocoon to tribute my Zoma in order to search for a Moth. And if he has a Moth in his hand as well, he can get that out additionally because of Parasite Paranoid's effect. If it goes to the grave, you can get a Moth out if it's in your hand. So he does. He has the Moth in his hand and the Moth in his deck. This is the classic setup that you see with the Moth deck. So now he has 2 3500 attack monsters out, and this is where I start to sweat. Because this is where you need a card like Sphere Karibo, Offerings to the Doom, etc. to get these monsters out and at least try and survive to the next turn. Because once this setup happens, it's so explosive, and it's usually very, very hard to deal with. A lot of these Moth decks also run a lot of back row removal just to make sure you have no answer. But he's got 2 Scary Moths out on the field. He's going to set a back row. He's going to go ahead with the first Moth. And I only have 2800 life points left, so that is all it's going to take. I did not have the Sphere Karibo or an Offerings in my hand. I do side both in this deck, but I did not have them in my hand. So that is game 2, going to Cursive and the Moth deck. Moving on to game 3. And I will say that both these decks right now are tier 1. I think that Moth is like tier 0, but Gravekeeper's Burn with Twisted Personality is definitely tier 1, or even with Inner Conflict, right up there with the Conflict Warriors and everything like that. So now Cursive's going first here for game 3, flashing that Golden Ladybug on a standby phase, getting 500 life points. So that's another, there it is right there, the good counter to the Gravekeepers. He's going to do a T-set and pass. It will now be my turn. And let's see what I have in my opening hand here for game 3. There's a Gravekeeper's Recruiter. That is 1200 attack. Is that going to beat over what he has face down? Maybe. It's tough. In the Speed Duel format, the defense can be pretty high. I think of like Command Knight. Oh, it's a Dekoichi. Okay, so Dekoichi, the Battle Channel Locomotive, and I have a heavy back row there. Dekoichi is a dark monster. It's going to let him draw because it's a flip effect, but the defense is only 1000. So Gravekeeper's Recruiter is actually going to successfully beat over that Dekoichi, and it goes to the grave. And now it's going to be Cursive's turn as I have the heavy back row against his 1 back row. Alright, Cursive standby phase happened. He's definitely still has that Ladybug in his hand, so he's gaining 5,000 there, you'll see that. But Allure of Darkness, allowing him to draw 2 and banish a dark monster. Doesn't have to be a fiend, but there's Gap the Divine Soldier, which is a dark fiend. There he is flashing the Ladybug, so he's at 5,000 now, while I'm at 4,000, the standard. But there's a gap in the banished. He's got the Parasite Paranoid to equip the Recruiter to try and pop off here with the Moth deck, but I say no with a Twister answer. So Parasite goes in the Spell Trap zone, considered a face-up spell and trap, and I have the answer right there with a Twister to destroy the face-up back row. And I pay 500 for that, which gives me 1 counter on Twisted Personality. It does put me down to 3,500, but I typically like to take that life point damage because I have the benefit of the counter. So Cursive activating Cocoon's secondary effect to shuffle Parasite back into the deck and draw a card. That secondary effect is so good too because it still gives him a chance to set it back up. Now, he did have a Moth in his hand when Parasite left the field, so he got Parasite's effect to get a Moth out. So it could have been extra devastating to have 2 Moths out, but the Twister only made it so that it was just 1 Moth from the hand. So he's going to go ahead and swing here, and let's see if I have an answer. This will be a battle damage difference of, I believe, 2,300. I'm going to Nightmare Wheel. Do not want that beating over Recruiter just yet. He's going to answer with a Dust Tornado. So Nightmare Wheel will go away. and Moth's attack is going to go through. That's super devastating. That hurts. I think that's 2,300 life point damage. Yeah, leaving me with 12,000. I do get Recruiter's Effect, which is an upside there. I'm going to search for the Gravekeeper's Oracle. But Cursive with one Moth out at 3,500 attack and one back row, it's very hard to get over this right now unless you have something like Offerings. Or I'm going to write a Spirit, get that Gravekeeper's Recruiter back, and actually might be able to see some good Oracle play here. So it's going to go into my draw phase, tributing the Recruiter for Gravekeeper's Oracle. There it is. So I do get Recruiter's Effect because it is a card that I controlled and I went to the graveyard. That's all of the effect of Recruiter, whether it's destroyed, whether you tribute. I'm going to get a Gravekeeper's Curse out now. And Gravekeeper's Oracle obviously has quite a few effects that you can resolve in sequence, but I am going to choose to minus 2,000 attack, 2,000 defense on my opponent's side of the field, which actually drops Moth down to 1,500. So Oracle is a 2,000 attack monster. Gravekeeper's Oracle is actually going to be able to beat over the Perfectly Ultimate Grave Moth. End phase, Cursive is going to Dust Tornado my back row, which was the Rite of Spirit. That would have been great to get another Recruiter back out, but I have full counters here, and it's going to be Cursive's turn. Cursive flashes the Golden Ladybug to get another 500 life points. That puts him up to 5,000. But I'm feeling pretty good with the strong monster on my side of the field. He's gone through his Parasite Paranoid kind of rotation, and we saw a Moth come and go. And I do have the 3 counters on Twisted Personality. So even if you were to get another Moth out, I would be able to blow those counters to get rid of it then next turn. That's why something like Sphere Kuriboh is so good, because sometimes you just have to survive to the next turn. But Cursive thinking in his main phase here, and the life point difference is substantial, 1,200 to 5,000 here in Game 3. Cursive is going to timidly set a monster and Allure of Darkness to draw 2 and then banish 1 dark. That's a Newdoria. And Cursive passing to me. I draw. Sitting here with 3 counters on Twisted Personality, but nothing to do on his side of the field as everything is face down. You can remove all 3 counters to destroy a face-up card your opponent controls, but not face down. But I could still remove 2 counters, which it looks like I'm going to do. I'm going to drop it to 1 in order to discard that last card from his hand, and it was another Newdoria. So even with the Allure of Darkness and all the card draw and the momentum he got there, he ran out, and I was able to discard that last card from his hand. I'm going to tribute Gravekeeper's Oracle for Gravekeeper's Chief. Gravekeeper's Chief is a card that not too many Gravekeeper decks run these days, but I'm running it. Gravekeeper's Chief is a 1,900 attack monster. You can tribute it, and then its effect is that you can special summon the Gravekeepers from the grave. So I essentially tributed Oracle for Chief, and then Chief effect got Oracle right back out. Essentially, I normal summon Chief. So Chief's going to beat over the Ladybug. He had to set that Ladybug as a defense mechanism, and Oracle is going to come through with 2,000 to the face. That drops him all the way down to 3,000. That closes the gap on the life points pretty quickly. Cursive top decked and set a card. And I am up to 2 counters now after that Oracle swing. But Cursive has no cards in hand, so that's not going to be too helpful right now. It's my turn. I got Gravekeeper's Curse, burning him down to 2,500. That's another 500 life points lost due to Curse there. And I'm going to swing for 800 with Gravekeeper's Curse. And now full counters on my Twisted Personality. That's going through. He's down to 1,700. Gravekeeper's Chief. And, oh, quick play Twister from my hand. He tried to Zoma, which would have murdered me. I would have been taking the attack damage there from beating over Zoma, but I had the quick play Twister in my hand, and there was nothing left for him to stop the onslaught of Chief and then Oracle as he reveals that he had a Twister set. I show that I have a Lava Golem in my hand just in case he were to get multiple monsters out. I find that that's a good way to combat against Moth also. If you get the double whammy out and you so happen to survive the next turn, you can get Lava Golem. But that was Gravekeeper's and Twisted Personality taking it over the Dark Moth deck. Guys, does this beat Moth? Yes, it does. I know it's not part of that series, but I wanted to showcase the very first remote duel. I hope you guys enjoyed this. The remote duel is surprisingly seamless and easy to get set up. I'm excited to do more of those for you. If you guys enjoyed this, please feel free to hit the like button and, of course, subscribe for more. And I will catch you guys next time.